Think you didn't.
Hey there. Welcome back. Divas, Diamonds, and Dollars podcast, helping you live your best life, offering whole life insights and a unique perspective from two sisters and sisters, speaking to the collective sisterhood of women everywhere. We welcome evolved men. How about that? We bring you the key success principles for principal finance, leadership, and business to help empower you with the tools and strategies to help you get ahead and succeed at a higher level. I am your host, Larisa Troche.
And I am Cecilia Benford.
We invite you to lean in for possibly the best conversation you have had all week. All right, so I'm super excited. We are entering to a three-part little session just because when the juices flow, and it seems like a good time to share these thoughts with you. We're going to help you future-proof your business. This is going to be part one, the four pillars of a sustainable business. And why don't we go ahead and state the obvious? Value is the underpinning of your business. I hope you can agree with that. If you're not providing a consistent level of quality and value, you are actually going to be out of business in short order. So, all the things that we're sharing with you today are really based on this key factor, if you will. It's so necessary to longevity. And again, if we're going to future proof your business, you got to have the value. But I'm pretty excited with all that stern warning and intro. I'm very excited about today's topic. So hope you grab that cuppa and let's get to it. And as you know, I always like to get you thinking. I just want to ask you, are you on track for building a long-term sustainable business? To answer that question, let us first, of course, define what a sustainable business means, followed by a review of several foundational building blocks that you must start with. And so when I'm saying sustainable, it should be noted that I'm not necessarily speaking of an environmentally green business focused on its global climate footprint, but recognizing that that's hugely important. We're at the point in time where we need to do something, but that's a conversation for another day. So sustainable in the way we're using it here includes the concepts of tenable, strong, maintainable for the long term until it's time for your predetermined exit strategy, which we will cover in glowing detail in part three. But just so you know briefly, in case you didn't, an exit strategy means a predetermined time to end your business or your role in the business. As with everything, you have choices. So we wanted to give you some guidance and get you going. Okay. So I was actually listening to a podcast, which is actually more applicable to part three, but I oh, tongue tied. So growing a sustainable business is very doable. The thing of it is, you just have to do the heavy lifting at the front end. And, sometimes we're not fond of that heavy lifting, especially when you get into the throes and all the things that come with growing a business. You get pulled in so many directions, but we want to outline for you what a sustainable business looks like so that you're on track and that you're more likely to reach the goals when you're ready to pull the plug or pivot. Hey, there's a good name. Pull the plug or pivot. So, okay, here's a scoop. The primary focus of your time as a driver of your business's success should be spent on four key areas. To the extent that you lay out the plan and direction for your company. That's you. You're in charge of the plan and direction for your company. We advise that you want to hire management to implement the plans for your strategy, have a team with the right stuff, revenue generation, and scalability. You've got to keep your eye on the prize. You're the driver, and someone else is behind the wheel. So that didn't make sense. That's not what I meant. You're the driver providing the direction and the plan, but then you must have others to help you implement. And I was reminded during that same podcast, I think that when I'm talking about hiring, remember this does not mean a 40-hour week full-time person. There are so many ways to get the work done. So don't I hope your hair didn't stand up on end when I said you need to have a team. But there are so many different ways to get it done, especially today. Okay. So Sam, I know you know this, I would say. Definitely as part of your previous or most recent previous employment, in the hot seat. I I was very impressed, even though I was very impressed. Maybe you could help us talk about strategy a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm losing it here.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, strategy is number one. And so, yes, a lot of what I've done in the past at various levels has been about the strategic plan. And it starts with having a visionary leader because that's who people get behind, right? It's not that they just have a vision, but they're also a leader. So you as the owner of your business, it may even be the fact that you cast vision to somebody else to sell it for you. You explain what you want, but the vision has to be clear. And with that comes, okay, I have a vision. That's the first thought. This is what I want to do. But how are you strategically going to get to your end goal that you want to be, which is certainly to be successful, have a business that, carries on. And so, too often people start out with this, I was talking to a person the other day. It was really kind of funny. You see this a lot in the food business, I think, where a person can cook. Grandma cooked. They've been a chef in various restaurants. I'm gonna open up a restaurant. Okay, that's good. I love to eat. I love to go support new restaurants, but they start out doing it all by the seat of their pants. Yeah, you can start out that way, but another thing I used to tell people when you're talking vision and strategy, you want to start out how you want to end up. That's the key, right? So by the seat of your pants is probably not it. So if you approach the process from the standpoint of longevity and viability, you're going to begin with a well thought out business plan. I don't know why you pass this on to me.
Good shape today.
Excuse us.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I didn't mean to put you a ringer.
That's okay. But a lot of times to cast vision, and depending on, what that business is, you may want to start out with a survey because that will inform you of what others think about it. Is this viable? Is this going to be beneficial? Is this something that others are going to also follow you? Excuse me. And so you want to make sure you have approached the right stakeholders. And again, that can be even in an office environment. That could be not only a food business, but maybe it's a salon. Okay, salons have popped up everywhere, but do you need 10 salons on the same strip area?
Wow.
No, probably not. And if I see that many, I'm probably going the opposite direction. Okay. You want to do something that you're going to not only motivate yourself, but are you going to motivate your team members? Okay. So first thing, the most important thing is strategy. After you, because again, the impetus to all of this is you have the vision. This is what I want to do. And remember, we're talking about sustainability. Not only do I want to do this business, I want to keep this, I want to maintain it. And I'm just so passionate about this. And so as a founder, you have the drive and the vision, but as you've already kind of indicated, that will only get you so far. And so as Larisa introduced this, she talked about 4 key tenets that we're going to talk about. So I'll kick this off. So what's the next thing? You need somebody to help you. You know what? No matter what anybody says, yeah, you can get some advice from somebody, but you want to, and if that's the case, is it a consultant? Is it, who's maybe your ride or die that you always confide in, but you want somebody to buy into it. Maybe they don't own it with you, but maybe they do. And so you do need that right-hand person to be with you at the forefront. And then you got to figure out who are the key players that you need to have to carry out your vision. So that's going to be our second input for sustainability of business.
So the whole point of it is I think most of us are familiar with the terms work in your business versus that you should be working on your business versus working in your business. And I don't know why they made it so complicated, because as I'm saying that out loud, that's work on your business, not for your business. But the new term that I learned recently was working above your business. And that is where, in my mind, I place the visionary leader. But at the end of the day, you do need a truly engaged and dedicated team. And so, we've talked ad nauseum, because the media is talking ad nauseum about, the whole quiet quitting, and the great resignation and all that. And then more recently, the reason I wanted to bring this up to see it was because I had just heard of it. Well, overemployed. And I'm like, well, first of all, what business is it of the employer if you have another job? These are trying times out there, and folks need to make ends meet. But of course, getting past the headline, because you always, you clickbait. But the complaint was that these people were working 2 full-time jobs simultaneously. So that means someone was not actually getting their someone's not getting the full 40 hours. Okay, sure, that's a valid complaint. But
it's a valid complaint. Excuse me for interrupting, but you took me back to, for the government, you had to say if you were doing outside employment.
Yeah.
And so my thing is to what I think you're indicating. First of all, you don't know how as long as you get what you want, what I do on my other job shouldn't matter.
Right.
And don't assume that I'm working more on that other job. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, there are instances. The main thing is, in my view, is I don't want to see you doing that other job on this job.
Exactly. Right.
But anything else, yeah, I'm kind of like, no.
Well, that's why I had to read that article, because I'm like, that is not your business.
Yeah.
And if you think it's your business, then you need to probably pay me some more money, so I don't need this second job, first of all. But yeah, and so that was why that was the difference, working jobs back to back versus working jobs simultaneously. There is a bit of a difference. And then the other new thing that I found out, and I don't know, maybe I just been under a rock, was employers are charging employees for training. So you hire somebody, you need to bring them up to speed, you're going to send them to this program or this program, or rather in-house training, whatever, just to help them succeed. But now in the hiring agreement, there is a clause in there that says if you leave within, I don't know, 6 months, a year, whatever the date is, we're going to charge you for that training that we just gave you.
Yes.
Do you think that's reasonable?
I do. And here's why. One, because we have that too. And they don't always really push the issue. But the reason I think it's plausible is that some people are just job shopping.
Sure.
Some people are truly just trying to take advantage of the situation. And the whole point of where you're going with this is you want the people to stay. You want the people to be there for the long term. You're not hiring somebody for the short term. And so if I invest in you, training is an investment. It's not just so you can be trained. It is, no kidding, an investment. And what I later learned is how much money we actually spend on employees, the investment. It's not cheap. Right. And so I know it varies, but I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable. I just didn't realize that it had become prevalent, and maybe it has or hasn't, I don't know. But according to this article, it is more common. But yeah, no, I totally get it. But anyway, yeah, so our point being, yes, you need people. And what I'm saying, I said earlier that you don't have to hire, necessarily full-time 40-hour week person, because first of all, full-time can be as many as down to 30 hours, at least in California.
Mhm. True.
And but maybe it's a project, maybe it's contract work, maybe the job that you need done, certainly if it's I shouldn't say certainly, possibly if it's an administrative function that you need carried out, or even marketing,
Mhm.
maybe it's a part-time person. But the whole point is that you cannot do it all yourself, not if you want to grow and to last into the future.
Mhm.
So the point of avoiding some of these issues that we were talking about is that you have engaged employees, and those are the ones who will be loyal and they'll work hard for you. So we want to suggest that you are slow to hire, and in doing so, making sure that you hire well and hire right. So sure, you have, for us, California, you have to have a standard list of questions that you ask everyone. But there can be detours, like, can you expand more? Can't tell me more about, because what you're trying to do is interview for fit. And that to me is your values and your culture, so that they are part of the team. It's a cohesive unit. Because not just skills, because that aforementioned training that you're going to get reimbursed for, right? Uh, anybody can learn skills. So you maybe want to have a foundation, but you don't have to just think about, do they check all the boxes, because we can all check boxes, right? But making sure that they fit with your values and your culture and the team, so that they work well together. And definitely treat your team well and engage them with, what's that word again? Oh, let me say it again.
Training.
Training and development, especially your I want to say, I think as your millennials or you're one of the gens, I don't know, I cannot keep up. 10 years into the old model. But that is really one of the focuses that they look for, and that they'll probably bring that up in the interview. Well, what are my is there any training? Are there any opportunities? And they also want recognition. Everybody needs a good attaboy now and again. I could stand an attaboy now and again, right? But folks get busy, they don't think about it, and they just push, 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 grind, grind, grind. Hey, stop, smell the roses. Give somebody else some roses. Say, that was a great job, and I really like the way you particularly articulated your project, and you made all the points, and we can really see the impact that you're going to make. Tell them what they did and how they, and be specific about it. Don't just say good job. You can tell
Oh
your
yeah.
puppy,
Yeah. Right.
good job, boy, good boy.
Yeah.
Don't good boy anybody.
Yes.
Um, and ideally that there will be promotion and growth opportunities. Think back to, what is that? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I still remember that. And it really came up.
That is one of those things that kind of sticks, doesn't it?
It does, because you can really see it in action. And I think, I don't know, I think that's probably in our high school years, wasn't it? That they bring this up, or maybe it was college, I'm not sure. But yeah, when you're learning something at school, you're like, I'm never going to use this. Well, this is one thing that actually has
Mhm,
definitely
mhm.
reared its head a lot in the last few years for me. So make sure that you are tending to the unspoken, sometimes, needs of your employees, so that they're fully engaged.
So if I can elaborate a little bit.
Could you?
So as we're talking about sustainable business, that really that word sustainability has to be part of your strategy. It really has to be part of your strategic plan today. I read Harvard Business School talks about these sustainable business insights. And one of the things is to, as they talk about how the businesses achieve their goals, but how are they going to, have confidence that they're going to still be around. So the first big thing that everybody had to do was get behind the digital world. And they said, okay, there's no matter where you are, who you are, there was no, oh, I can avoid that. And so now they've said, and of course that includes the artificial intelligence that we're, trying to grapple and figure that out. We see how fast technology it just takes over. And so it's kind of like you no longer get to hide and avoid it. Well, the sustainability is sort of the same thing. And again, we're not talking about the greening aspect of it, the green environment, because it does sort of fit into what I'm going to mention. But as you have spoken about a couple times already, Larisa, is value. So one thing that is occurring with our new employees, it used to be they didn't have any input as to what you, Mr. or Mrs. Business, are about. And, sometimes it's way over here, like, okay, I didn't ask you for all that, but okay. But, you really do have to be a value-oriented business. That's what people want to be a part of. And so as a value-oriented business, it's there are, and we sort of did this with when I was working, for example, when we write up awards, what did the person do as a volunteer? We want somebody who doesn't just go to work and go home. What do
Well-rounded.
you bring to the whole world?
Right.
So what are your interests? What are you as a volunteer? Because as you said, engaged employees will be loyal and hard workers. So engaged employees to me are beyond that 40-hour week anyway. And so they are interested in many things. And before, workers would just grumble, but now, are there fair working conditions? That's key. Is gender inequality? Some people coming in trying to see how the bathrooms are what the labels on them. Because hey,
Designated.
I might go somewhere and I'm looking, not sure where I'm supposed to go. Okay. Um, there was a TED talk I listened to last week. It was pretty interesting. And so what this person was talking about was, okay, diversity, yeah, okay, everybody uses that as a check mark.
Mm.
But what she was talking about is it's really not diversity that we should be after, because what does that really mean? Even when you say diversity and the E word that some people think is equality, sometimes people think it's equity, and then there's inclusion, and now it's belonging. It's kind of growing, but what does that really mean? And so her input was, instead of diversity, it should be equity. That's what the action should be, because diversity may not be about taking action. It's about who's at your place of business. Whereas equity means, nope, that's action involved. So people are, in order, the training, the recognition, guess what? Equity's got to be throughout all of that. Whether somebody's going to get a promotion and whether there are growth opportunities for that business, in order to sustain business and to be, people are looking at, when they go in, they're looking around the room, but they ask, people on the side, so how do they treat their employees? Are there any, and what we're learning due to all of the COVID, Zoom, I know so much more about the world than I ever knew in the last 2 years, because everything is out there. You see, human rights issues that we are linked to other people globally, even if you're just a small business. You might be in that chain of, suppliers. You make something for others. So I don't want to, expand too much on that. But when we talk about value and sustainability, it has to be part of the business strategy. And as the employer and the employee, the relationship is that both have to be looking at that, and people want to see that, because if I'm going to promote this business, I want people to say that's a good company to work for. And that means I will be around for, because sometimes people just support a business because you are that business. You provide value more so, it's more than just it's a product. It's a product that I can feel, or a service. but we have to provide value to sustain the business.
Two things to add is when I was speaking of how you hire, and I spoke, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full-time employee. I want to just remind you that, you can actually bring on a temporary CEO, COO, or CFO. You want to hire for the skills that you don't necessarily have, that you don't necessarily do the best. So really, you have options. And so I want you to think, you know, I want you to think, see outside the box, or think, big picture about how you can achieve your goals and who is going to help you bring them forward. But to Cecilia's point about how employees are treated, the equity, equality, inclusion, diversity, whatever the things that are important to employees, because many of them want to, Cecilia mentioned, bring work for companies that are making a difference, that are aligned with their particular values.
Mhm.
And to her point about everything being out there, there are those websites such as Glassdoor. There's another one that I don't remember the name of, but that is specifically what it's for, is where former employees get on and they say, well, this is how this company is and this is how they treat the people. So their little stuff is out there. So why not just do the right thing from the beginning? And we're definitely going to talk more about that actually in our next part 2.
Yeah.
But by the way, and let's just say right up front, I could have started with this one: revenue growth. You're definitely not going to be around if your revenue is not growing year over year. Okay, so what you need to do is that you must regularly review and manage the company's finances. Setting, meeting, and ideally exceeding your revenue goals will keep you in the black and growing for the long term. So, and again, not to just be too basic about it, but the basics are you've got to have customers, right? So you need to spend some quality time on your strategy and systems for client attraction and retention, because it's much cheaper to retain a client than to try and go out and get a new one. So you have to know what your cost per client acquisition is, right? So you need to track these expenditures and develop your plans around that, because again, without those customers, you don't actually have a business. We started off talking about value. So you have your core product, you have your core service, but in keeping with the know, like, trust factor, because that's who people like to do business with, how, in my mind, you need to look at what else can you offer. You're not just offering somebody a box of nuts and bolts, right? Maybe there's a tip sheet, or maybe there's a video. Sadly, that darn YouTube will get you in trouble, because I was trying a little handy dandy home repair for which I was not qualified. So definitely not qualified. But this company, I bought a repair kit, and so they had the instructions, which were actually pretty easy to follow, which is why I thought I could do it. But they also offered a installation video. So they weren't just throwing you to the wolves and say, okay, bye-bye, thank you for buying, have a nice day. They're trying to anticipate questions and provide resources so that the customer would first of all be successful, maybe recommend their product or service. So think about what you can add on to your core offerings, because for me, when I call it Alice, a little something extra. I don't want to just deliver this wonderful workshop or this wonderful ebook or PDF. What else can I throw into the hat and make you feel good about buying from me? So yeah, you want to put some time on that. But at the end of the day, you are certainly need to be profit minded. This is about filling your coffers. So I'm sure we can all think of corporations making billions, but really spending almost as much as they make without achieving long-term profitability. Those companies are in the news every other day, probably every day. And sure, you think about your tech companies, But you want to also think about your e-commerce companies. The reason they make all those billions is that they spend another gajillion on the marketing. So it's not that you do in many ways have to spend money in order to make money, but you need to be profit minded, making sure that there is profit built into your model. Don't just say, I have a thing and it's not built it. You already know this. It's not built it and they will come. It's not how that works. So
I
your
heard of, yeah.
let me just finish this sentence. Your deliverables have to have a healthy margin so that you are putting some green into your wallet each and every day. Madam.
No, you just reminded me that I was listening to a women's conference last week, said the very thing you did. And I think she wrote a book, but because people kind of think they know what they want to make, but it is truly about, understanding what you can get, what the profit margins are, that a lot of times people don't. And so I know we were gonna, you excuse me, introduced scalability, which certainly fits here, but that in my view, could you just introduce it? Because we want to spend a little more time on that, and I don't think we have time to talk about it this session. And maybe you could introduce it and then we could go into it later. Because no, I mean, you can introduce it, but it's a good point, and I just don't know that we have a lot of time to cover this right now.
Well, that's why I had to divide this into three parts, because once I
Yeah.
was putting it together, it's like and. So that's why we can't tell you everything, but we certainly want to give you enough information to get started. And as well, I'd like to say, we want you to have enough information so that you can ask good questions, right? So the fourth one that we're going to actually end up with today is scalability. As Cecilia said, scalability is the ability for your enterprise to expand and to grow. It's not this little baby that you birthed. Because as you know, kids grow up and they grow up quick. And your business, we want it to grow, but on a planned schedule. So anyway, so setting annual financial goals is really only the beginning, right? But you also need to consider whether or not your business has any staying power. So that's really what I mean. That's part of what I mean by scalability. So how can you grow the business? So your business plan should be a living document. It's not like you write it once, whoo, done. Don't have to ever open that again. Yeah, you do. Sorry. Regularly reviewed and updated with an eye on expansion. So some ways to scale your business, just some, not this is, what is that called? Some ways include, but not limited to, customer acquisition through new markets and offering new products or services. So we talked in the beginning about your revenue growth is based on being able to attract and retain clients, right? Well, let's just say, you've been doing a good job, and maybe I won't say you've depleted a market. That's not necessarily a thing. And if it's a thing, then you need to go back to the drawing board. But let's just say you have proof of concept, you have proven your model and it's working, and now you're ready to move into the next market. So you're going to expand your bottom line by expanding your reach. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about scaling. That's growing. One way is to acquire new customers by going into new markets or creating a related product, what's that word to say? There's a word in there, but when they go together, there's a more technical term.
Comparable, no,
Complementary. There we go. A
complementary.
complementary
What?
product or service to
Yeah.
what you are already doing. Well, what is the next step when people use your product or service? What else do they need? Can you provide that? So also, and this isn't for everybody, and it definitely depends on your business model, but don't poo-poo the idea. If you have that particular model, maybe if you have your systems in place, can your business be replicated through franchising? You don't have to be the next Subway or McDonald's to be franchised. So, you can open new locations, say by replicating your business in a different market, a different way to get additional clients. But, for example, I was gonna say which type of business could be franchised. Any of them could be. I could be franchised, which is one of my long-term visions, plans. You know, all things being equal, I can't be everywhere at once, but having a system and having a manual, having procedures, this can be taught. You know, this is like train the trainer for my particular business. I'm just saying, or yours. It can be particularly franchised, or the next one is licensed. Definitely my business could be licensed, right? Does your product or service lend itself to licensing? And the one that comes to mind for as soon as I use that word was Robert Kiyosaki. And I think most of us in this role, if you're listening to him, to me, you've probably heard of Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad, Poor Dad fame. You know, he had his 4 quadrants, and I used to, when that first came out, I was going to all these events, and then I realized these were people just licensing his name. I did see him personally, but more as he grew on. Again, you can't be everywhere at once, but you can have your message, and you license your name and quote unquote likeness, because yeah, I did pick up on that. Said, oh, this is not the same. So if you're going to license your business, make sure that you have some requirements in place for it. But again, that can happen. There were so many offshoots from those licensing his name and expanding on his concept, but also NFL. I always see, and Disney, I always see that they license their brand, because if you're buying a jersey or something, there's somewhere either on the tag or in the advertising that this is, you know, officially licensed by or something or other. So coaching and consulting actually can be licensable enterprises. So I just want you to think about the opportunity. You have options for growth, and you don't have to do it all on your own. And there's what more than one way to skin the cat. So I hope that gets those juices flowing, and that you got some doing some thinking about it here. Yes, so how exciting would that be, right, to see your name, your brand go national or go international? I don't know, what about it could happen. Can you want to bring someone our final thoughts, or did you want to add to the scalability, because it sounded like you wanted to say some more things on it.
No, I think no, I think that's for another day. So no, I think you got us excited about thinking big. So bring it on home, sister.
If I can do anything, I don't have any problem thinking big. Okay, final thoughts, mostly for this part, because we got 2 more parts coming. So obviously, as we said, this is just a brief snapshot of the possibilities that await you, but I hope that you're excited, because we encourage business owners to think big. Multipreneurs and money mavens, that you keep their eyes on the prize, which is to say, we remain constantly aware of opportunity and growth that are within reach. Just put your little arms out there. Will you dare to step into the realm of massive success? Your head should be doing this. Okay. So I feel like I kind of raced through that, and I hope that you thought it was helpful. And you know, we always invite you to listen twice, because sometimes you just like watching a movie more than once, which I do. Some people don't, but sometimes it's a twofer, or maybe it's a threefer. You need to watch it again, because you always pick up something different. So go ahead and give this another listen if you think you missed a couple things. But right this minute, your takeaways would be, if you're a business owner or planning to be a business owner, the SWOT analysis is still a magical tool, and it is a relevant tool. So just do a SWOT analysis on the current viability of your business. SWOT, as you may recall, is your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and the threats. And we will go more into that in a future part of this three-peat, just because
Important to your strategic plan. Very important.
thank you. I like when we can finish the other sentence. Sometimes I just can't. So once you do your SWOT analysis, draft a growth plan for any needed changes that were revealed during that SWOT. Okay. So that is it. Just, I can't say little things, but just 2 things: SWOT and a growth plan. Oh my goodness, super excited. So if you liked what you heard today, think of one or two friends who could benefit from this information and maybe won't you share that today? And don't forget to subscribe because when you subscribe, then these podcasts are delivered automatically to your listening device. How about that? So, okay. Next week, be sure to tune in for part 2 of Future Proof Your Business, where you will learn to do the right things at the right time, the right way. Because all this magic that I laid out for you, you want those 4 foundational pillars to be the solid starting place. And then you want to get to the next level as you build your business. So make sure that you tune in. We're looking forward to sharing with you. And I think that will do it for this episode. And we will definitely check you out next week. Okay, so remember, I am Larisa Troche, founder of Pink Passport Society, a community of multipreneurs and money mavens. So apply today for membership. And
I'm Cecilia Benford. I'm the leadership coach and principal of Diverse, Accountable, Resilient, and Connected LLC. So reach out today if you would like to discuss working with either one of us on your success journey.
thank you so much, gentle persons. We will see you next week. Ciao.